There's nothing I can think that I'd rather be doing than working right here at Quick and Fast. Michael Evans, you are behind on your chores first and about to get whooped second.
This documentary called Quiet on the Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, but it is an investigation into allegations of racism, more at Nickelodeon, by a show creator, Dan Schneider, who played a part in creating some of the work that you did there. They said that, you know, they investigate all of these things, investigate all of the allegations.
Well, investigate more.
The terrible secret Kenan Thompson kept hidden for years wasn't about something he did. It was about everything he didn't say.
I can't really speak on things that I never witnessed, you know what I'm saying? Because all these things happened after I left, basically.
As former child stars and insiders began speaking out about what really happened behind the scenes at Nickelodeon, Kenan stayed quiet, safe, clean, and unbothered.
So, like, I wasn't really aware of a lot of it, but my heart goes out to, you know, anybody that's been victimized or their families, you know what I mean?
But now, with disturbing allegations surfacing and a culture of a finally being exposed, people are asking why Kenan, someone who was right there, hasn't said more, and what he didn't say might change how you see him forever. Kenan Thompson got his start in the entertainment industry at a young age. His breakout moment came in the mid-1990s with Nickelodeon's All That, a sketch comedy show that introduced a new generation to fast-paced, kid-friendly humor. Kenan quickly stood out with his comedic timing, memorable characters, and natural presence on screen. He wasn't just part of the cast, he was the face of the show for many viewers. His popularity led to the spin-off series Kenan and Kel, where he starred alongside Kel Mitchell.
Have you noticed anything strange about him lately? Who loves orange?
That show became a cultural staple, especially in Black households, and made Kenan a household name. From there, he transitioned into film and eventually joined Saturday Night Live in 2003, where he became the longest-running cast member in the show's history. Unlike many child stars who struggle with public image or fall into controversy, Kenan avoided scandals. He was seen as professional, reliable, and easy to work with. That clean record made him a trusted figure, someone both kids and adults looked up to. But it also raised expectations. When serious issues from his early TV years came to light, people naturally looked to Kenan for answers. And when those answers didn't come, the silence felt heavier. In fact, when the Quiet on Set documentary was released, revealing deeply disturbing stories from former Nickelodeon cast members, all eyes turned to Kenan. For many people, he was the face of that era, the one who always seemed safe, the one parents trusted. People wanted to know what he saw, what he knew, and why he hadn't spoken up. At first, he didn't say much. Then, in an appearance on the Tamron Hall show, he finally broke his silence. He said the things being described in the docuseries mostly happened after he left Nickelodeon, that his time there was before it got really bad, that Dan Schneider, the man now accused of creating a toxic environment, wasn't even fully involved with Kenan and Kel. He sounded calm, careful, and while he did express sympathy for the victims, fans noticed what he didn't do. He didn't take any real responsibility. He didn't mention any red flags he might have seen. No behind-the-scenes stories, no warnings, just silence. To some, that sounded fair. If he didn't see it, how could he speak on it? But for others, especially fans who grew up on these shows, it sounded like he was protecting himself, playing it safe, and that rubbed people the wrong way. Because here's the thing, Kenan may not have been directly involved with Dan Schneider during Kenan and Kel, but he was heavily involved with All That, where Schneider had a much bigger role. And even if some of the worst stories didn't come out until later, a lot of the culture, the silence, the fear, the pressure to stay quiet, that existed when Kenan was still there. So when Kenan said things like,
memories of, you know, my co-stars and stuff like that,
it hit differently. Some viewers saw it as him downplaying what happened. Others said he was just trying to protect the good memories he had from the experience. But either way, he never fully addressed the bigger question. Did he see anything? Not a but anything inappropriate? Anything uncomfortable? Anything that made him stop and think, wait, something's wrong here? He didn't say. Instead, he said this.
It's tough for me because I can't really speak on things that I never witnessed. You know what I'm saying? Because all these things happened after I left, basically.
And that might be true, but it also sounds like a way to distance himself. Now, to be fair, Kenan never defended Dan Schneider. He didn't try to shut down the survivors' stories. And he did say the documentary was important.
I think it's a good thing that the doc is out and it's, putting things, on display that need to be, stories that need to be told for this, accountability's sake.
But here's what people keep asking. Why is he only speaking now? Why didn't he say anything earlier, especially when he started promoting Good Burger 2, a Nickelodeon project, at the same time the doc was blowing up? Was it about protecting his brand? Protecting Nickelodeon? Or did he really not know? At the end of the day, Kenan isn't accused of doing anything. But in situations like this, silence speaks too. And a lot of fans are hearing it loud and clear. And the truth is, that was just the beginning. Because after that interview aired, more questions started coming in. Questions about what Kenan may have ignored, what he chose not to address, and who else might have been hurt during the years he was around, even if he didn't realize it. As more stories came out from the Quiet on Set documentary, it wasn't just the that shocked people. It was the racism. Quiet, subtle, but always there. And for some former cast members, especially the black ones, the pain wasn't just physical or emotional. It was cultural. They said they were treated differently, ignored during production, left out of key scenes, given less screen time, less respect, less care. But the strangest part is that nobody had ever really spoken up about it before. And when they did, one name kept getting brought up: Kenan Thompson. Not because he said anything racist, not because he mistreated anyone, but because he never spoke up. Kenan was one of the most visible black stars on Nickelodeon. He had the spotlight, the influence, the platform. And when these stories started surfacing about cast members being sidelined, about makeup artists not knowing how to work with black skin, about wardrobe teams ignoring basic cultural sensitivity, Kenan stayed quiet. And that silence? It hit hard for a lot of fans. Some said it wasn't fair to expect him to fix everything, that he was just a kid when he started, that he was trying to survive in an industry that didn't always protect him either. But others pointed out something deeper, that Kenan wasn't just surviving. He was winning, getting roles, getting paychecks, becoming a brand. And in doing so, they say, he may have lost touch with what was happening around him.
I wasn't really aware of a lot of it, but my heart goes out to, anybody that's been victimized or their families, you know what I mean?
Some fans didn't accept Kenan's explanation. They understood that maybe he didn't see everything or wasn't involved in the worst situations. But they also felt that someone in his position should have noticed something. Black cast members were being mistreated. They were overlooked, ignored, and in some cases, disrespected. That didn't start after Kenan left. It was already happening during his time there. And he was right there, on set, while it was going on. Even if Kenan didn't witness it firsthand, many believe he was close enough to sense something was off. Whether he realized it or not, staying silent allowed those stories to stay hidden for years. When the documentary finally gave survivors a chance to speak, fans didn't just ask why Kenan stayed quiet back then. They wanted to know why he still wasn't saying anything now. People weren't asking him to take blame for things he didn't do. They were asking him to acknowledge what others went through, to recognize that he had a platform, and with that platform came responsibility. Instead, he focused on his own timeline, his personal experience, and what he claimed he didn't know. But the racism didn't stop when he left the network. It had already been built into the culture, and a lot of people feel that someone like Kenan, who had power and visibility, could have spoken up and maybe made a difference. To this day, Kenan hasn't publicly responded to those racism claims. not during interviews, not in press statements, and not when asked about the broader issues within the shows he came from. That silence has left a noticeable gap, especially now that more people are coming forward. Because sometimes the issue isn't just what happened, it's who stayed quiet while it did. As the controversy surrounding Quiet on Set exploded online, one name kept dominating every headline: Dan Schneider.
Working for Dan was like being in a relationship.
Dan's treatment of people on his shows was an open secret.
So my lawyer filed complaints, gender discrimination, hostile work environment.
For years, Schneider had been considered a creative genius, the mastermind behind shows like All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, and iCarly. But behind the scenes, many former child stars say the environment he created was toxic, over-controlling, inappropriate, and, at times, outright dangerous. So when fans learned that Kenan Thompson had worked under Schneider during his early Nickelodeon years, they started asking, what did Kenan see? What was his experience? In public, Kenan tried to create distance between them, and that's what raised eyebrows. Because if Kenan had such a long working relationship with Schneider, one that launched his career, why hasn't he said more about him? Kenan never defended Schneider. He hasn't publicly praised him, but he hasn't condemned him either. Even now, in interviews, he carefully avoids criticizing Schneider. When Tamron Hall mentioned Schneider's name and brought up the YouTube apology video his team released, Kenan didn't push back. He didn't challenge it. He just said, well, investigate more.
Production company, and they said that, they investigate all of these things, investigate all of the allegations.
Well, investigate more.
It was a line that sounded powerful, but to some, it also sounded like a dodge. Because while Kenan called for more investigation, many fans feel like he could have provided the insight. He was there, on the ground, around the same people. And even if he didn't see the worst of it, they believe he saw enough to know the environment wasn't right. But Kenan sticks to one message. It all happened after he left. But here's the thing. Even if the worst incidents came later, the foundation was already being laid while Kenan was there. The way Schneider ran things, the way kids were treated, the silence, the pressure, the imbalance of power. It didn't just appear out of nowhere in the 2000s. Some fans say Kenan had to have noticed something, even if it wasn't criminal, even if it wasn't obvious. They wanted him to come out and say, yeah, it felt off, or we were told to stay in line, or even just, we were kids and we didn't understand what was really going on. But that never happened. Instead, Kenan stayed neutral. He didn't deny anything, but he didn't confirm it either. And maybe that's why his statements feel so hollow to some. Because people don't just want him to speak on his experience. They want him to acknowledge how much his silence protected people like Dan Schneider. Anyway, by the time Kenan Thompson joined Saturday Night Live, he was already a Nickelodeon legend. He made history as the first black cast member to spend more than a decade on the show. But behind the laughs, another controversy was brewing, and this time it had nothing to do with Dan Schneider or Nickelodeon. The drama unfolded in 2013 when Kenan Thompson, an integral part of the SNL ensemble, made a startling revelation during a TV Guide interview. At that time, SNL had just welcomed 6 new white performers into its fold, intensifying an already glaring diversity problem within the show's cast. The stage was set for Thompson to address this issue and set tongues wagging with his words. However, Thompson's response was anything but straightforward. Instead of laying blame solely at the feet of SNL or its venerable showrunner, Lorne Michaels, he chose to take a more nuanced route. Thompson cited the dearth of quality black female comedians as a significant factor contributing to SNL's diversity woes. He remarked, "It's just a tough part of the business. Like in auditions, they just never find ones that are ready." However, the fallout from his comments was seismic. Articles, tweets, and talking heads erupted in fury, accusing Thompson of implying that there weren't any talented black women in comedy. BuzzFeed even ran a headline-grabbing article titled, "4 Black Women SNL's Kenan Thompson Should Meet," featuring one of those women, Nima Funk, who humorously suggested that the only way she could be ready for SNL would be to transform herself into a white man. However, Thompson was quick to defend himself. He insisted that his quote had been misconstrued and that he would never disrespect his culture or sisters. Instead, he maintained that his intention was to prepare aspiring comedians for the challenging SNL experience, a place where even he, with years of experience in the business, had grappled with uncertainty. But Thompson's response didn't end there. He declared his willingness to be the villain if that's what it took to get more women hired on the show. Moreover, he shone a spotlight on the scarcity of black-owned production companies specializing in comedy, asserting that this scarcity limits roles for black comedic actors. Thompson's words resonated deeply as he likened his struggle to succeed on SNL to taking an exam that did not align with his upbringing and experiences. For SNL's progressive fan base, the show's lack of diversity has long been a thorn in their side. Since its inaugural episode in 1975, only 15 black performers have graced the SNL stage. Among them, only 4 have been women: Yvonne Hudson, 1980 to 81; Denitra Vance, 1985 to 86; Ellen Cleghorn, 1991 to 95; and Maya Rudolph, 2000 to 2007. Since Rudolph's departure, viewers have lamented the absence of a black female cast member to portray iconic figures like Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, or Beyoncé, not to mention the dearth of original black female characters. In any case, SNL's casting process remains shrouded in secrecy, leaving outsiders to wonder why the show hasn't diversified its cast. Is it, as Thompson suggested, simply a matter of SNL's producers being unable to find black women who are ready? But how is that possible when those in the alternative comedy scene know of numerous hilarious black women who have auditioned only to be mysteriously rejected? The question persists: is anyone ever truly ready for SNL? Fairness demands that we refrain from making accusations without knowing the motivations of the gatekeepers. Nonetheless, the ongoing absence of a black female cast member continues to baffle viewers. In our quest to shed light on this controversial issue, let's dig deep into the comedy communities that nurture SNL talent, crunch some numbers, and reveal some astonishing discoveries. At first glance, SNL's current cast of 51 members might appear substantial, each one contributing their unique talents to the show's weekly sketches and comedic performances. Yet, when we dissect these numbers, a disturbing pattern emerges. Out of those 51 cast members, only 4 are black men, and just 1 is a black woman. This ratio is strikingly disproportionate when compared to the diversity of the United States population. The lack of representation within SNL's cast is especially problematic given the show's influential reach. SNL often serves as a reflection of current events and pop culture, making it imperative for its cast to accurately represent the diverse perspectives and experiences of the American people. With such a limited number of people of color, SNL risks missing valuable opportunities to engage with relevant social and political issues and to present a more inclusive comedic landscape. Anyway, in 2014, SNL took a significant step toward addressing its diversity issues by hiring its first black female cast member in years, along with 2 black female writers. It seemed like the conversation about diversity on the show might finally be coming to an end. However, it was only the beginning. SNL's executive producer, Lorne Michaels, finally took steps to address the criticisms regarding the lack of diversity on the show. While this was a positive development, it raised new questions about why it took so long for such changes to occur. Critics argued that SNL had missed out on numerous comedic opportunities by not having a black female cast member for years. In response to the controversy, SNL aired a self-aware sketch in 2014 when Kerry Washington, the star of ABC's Scandal, hosted the show and became the first black woman to lead SNL in years. The show's writers wasted no time in poking fun at their own shortcomings. The sketch had Washington playing Michelle Obama and Oprah, with a tongue-in-cheek apology from the show's producers for not having a black woman in the cast.
Don't you think you should go and get changed?
Why?
So that Oprah can come in?
Oh, because of the hole.
Yes, exactly.
And Keenan won't. I will leave, and in a few minutes, Oprah will be here.
Thank you, Mrs. Obama. Thank you.
The producers at Saturday Night Live would like to apologize to Kerry Washington for the number of black women she will be asked to play.
While the sketch was well received, it couldn't erase the show's historical lack of diversity. Kenan Thompson built a career by staying out of controversy. While other child stars faced breakdowns, legal issues, or public meltdowns, Kenan kept a steady image, clean, consistent, and conflict-free. That image helped him last, but it also raises questions about how much he was willing to ignore to keep that reputation. When serious issues surfaced involving the spaces he came from, Kenan gave brief, distant responses. He didn't deny anything, but he also didn't say much. No calls for change, no specific reflections, just safe, general statements that felt more like a press release than personal insight. The backlash isn't about blaming him for what others did. It's about the silence, about how someone who was right there, in the room, on the stage, part of the system, chose not to say anything that could make the industry uncomfortable. And this isn't just about his past at a children's network. At Saturday Night Live, when diversity became a public issue, Kenan didn't challenge the system. He said the right talent hadn't shown up. That may not be intentional harm. But for people who expected leadership from someone in his position, it's disappointing. But now that the truth is coming out, people are starting to ask whether his quiet success came at the cost of everyone who couldn't speak. Because the most dangerous thing about silence is that sometimes it helps keep the damage going. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.